Get my 6, because I know you heard that. Hey guys, welcome back to another video from Homesteading Off the Grid. This was not supposed to be a Bigfoot Sasquatch video. This was actually going to be, but you hear that, right? This was going to be one of those long lost morning rambles, because it is morning, as you can see. Hold on. I've been gone for a few days. I've been up in DC, and we just got back last night, and I was missed. So it's like I came out here, set the phone up. I've been outside for about 10 minutes. I've been looking at my firewood pile for a very interesting reason. I'll share that with you here in a bit. But it's like I set the phone up, and man, they just started knocking like crazy. It's like they missed me. I've been gone for like 3 days, a couple nights. So they know I'm here. They're watching. They saw the phone being set up, and they're like, he's back, he's back. So let's just reply and respond and see what happens. So much for that. Just keep listening. They'll be back. They're playing their little games now. Now it's time to be peekers and peelers and play peekaboo and hide and seek. But guys, okay, so we'll switch the format back to the morning ramble. And I'm going to do with you what I'd planned on doing anyway for this video. Haven't done this in a while. And we'll just listen and we'll watch and we'll see what we can see and we'll hear what we can hear. But I was originally going to call this a walk of gratitude. And let me explain why. God, isn't that beautiful? Look at this beautiful scenery all around me. I've just spent the last 3 days, I guess, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, in the city, in Washington, D.C., and is a beautiful city, a clean city, and the people were wonderful, because I guess my last experience with the city, and this is no disrespect, again, I can only control what I say. I can't control how you take what I say, okay? What I was going to say and what I will say is my last city experience was Manila, which is a wonderful city in so many ways. But of course, you have the population and the pollution problems, or you had. It's much cleaner now. It is far cleaner now. They actually have white sandy beaches now. But when I was there, it wasn't like that. You'd go out, especially at 5 o'clock when the folks got off work. We had a condo in a place called Makati City. And it's like, it was a block away from the Philippine Stock Exchange. It was in the business sector. And man, it was just a sea of humanity. Let's pause. Not just because I haven't worked out in 3 days and I got to catch my breath, but because I want you to see this beautiful scenery. We're in our upper apple orchard here, the one in our backyard. We've got 8 variously assorted apple trees planted here. Look at that. It is November 10, and yes, I need to shave too. I was just so excited to get out here after I finished my coffee. I just couldn't wait. Look at the rustic type colors of this time of year on our homestead. And the only dwelling we see here is a tent, which I'll be taking down soon because it's about to get cold here where we live, unfortunately. But in Manila, you'd go out and it was just a sea of humanity, people everywhere. I enjoyed my time there as best I could. I was there for 6 months. But man, DC, let me tell you, it's day and night difference. We went out Monday morning, and just walked around the city for a few hours before Dearly, my beautiful bride Dearly, aka Giggly Girl, and our son had their appointment at the Philippines embassy to renew their Filipino passports. Daniel's dual citizenship. He's American citizen and a Filipino citizen. Okay. We walked around for hours, and I swear there is usually more traffic and more foot traffic, both car traffic and foot traffic in Charlottesville than there was in DC. We were at DuPont Circle, one of the most popular places in DC, and it was just amazing. And the infrastructure is well laid out. They've got the crosswalks. All the lights work great. But if we accidentally stepped out maybe into a crosswalk when it wasn't really our turn to go, the cars would not lay on their horns and honk or hit the gas and try to run us over. they would stop and they would smile and they would wave us by so we could go. Just, the stereotypes about people in the cities and all that. But I'll tell you, from our experience in DC, and it's not like it's the first time I've been in a city. I've been in a lot of cities around the world, big, huge cities. Seattle, Boston, which is not big at all. It's very small. And then all over the world. Lived in Mosul for a year. That had 5 million people. But it was just a wonderful experience. But I was going to call this video a walk of gratitude because let me tell you, when we're kind of in the same place, doing the same thing for prolonged periods of time, and we don't really step away from it for a while, we have a tendency to take so much of what we have in our lives for granted. And I was talking about this in a video last week because I was feeling kind of blah, and I had to go talk to a couple of older friends of mine, a guy in his 70s and a guy in his 80s, and I was reminded by these two very wise gentlemen that the reason I was feeling blah, I just heard a knock, was because I was taking all the blessings in my life for granted, because they've been here for a while now, and perfect health, perfect family situation, perfect living environment, our needs are met, business is good, and so I'd gotten bored and I was taking this stuff for granted. Well, my trip to DC taught me that something else I'd been taking for granted was living out here in nature. I really liked DC and I enjoyed every minute of it, and we ate, we focused on eating. When it was time to eat, we would pick out a different ethnic restaurant to eat because we don't have those options. There are many ethnic restaurants in Charlottesville. Last week I ate at a Honduran restaurant and I talked to the owners there. They've been there 5 months, down at the end of Allied Street where you get close to the firehouse. For the locals who are watching, close to the 250 bypass, they told me it was the first Honduran restaurant in the history of Charlottesville. Food was great, the service was great, the prices, I couldn't finish my food, it was so much, and it was like $11, so I recommend them. So while in DC, we ate Peruvian food, Egyptian food, Greek food. There used to be a nice Greek restaurant in Charlottesville. There's probably others now, but the one I ate at before is shut down. Chinese, which we eat here all the time, but we were really hungry one night, and we just kind of went to the first place we came to. Man, look at this. But it was a wonderful experience. But I miss this. Look at that. There's my old house, built in 1903, 117 years old. There's my pond, full of catfish nearly as long as my leg, largemouth bass as long as my forearm, or longer, from my elbow to the end of my fingers. Got a couple of them in there. Bunch of smaller ones, and then sunfish, crappie, deer in the yard. We went to the DC Zoo, and get this, they had 2 huge bucks. One was a 9-point big rack, and one had 5 tines on one, but on its other one, it was only had a spike. It looked like, like a unicorn, but it was like 1.5 feet long, and they were chasing the does around. And so we were watching this, and we heard the people around us, just overheard people talking about, like, wow, this is the first time I've ever seen a wild deer. I was like, wow. I'm taking that for granted. I see this scene in my backyard on a regular basis. I mean, we've counted, Dearly and Daniel once counted 40 deer at once here. This is when I was working at the post office a couple of years ago. And I'm grateful I'm not working at the post office anymore. But I've counted as many as like 20 or 22 here at one time. And so I'm grateful for that. They destroy my trees, and I've spent more money on fencing and guards to protect my trees than I have trees, because most of my trees I dug up from right here. Matter of fact, we call this our tree depository. There's every kind of tree you can think of around here that's in this area, and like all their seeds blow here in the summer and the fall and the next spring. You can come here, you get eastern redwoods, eastern red cedars. We got loblolly pine, white pine, poplar, red oak, white oak, everything you can get here. We even have a lot of dogwoods that come up here because there's a couple of parent dogwoods, and we just dig them up and move them around and plant them. I don't know if you can tell or not, but I'm happy to be home. I'm happy to be back on my homestead. And so it's like I feel rejuvenated and energized just from getting out to a totally different environment, a city environment, and then coming back. I mean, look at this, all around. Now, this time of year when the leaves are gone, there's a couple houses we can see, but they're still far away. And the people that live there are great. They leave us alone. Sometimes they wave if they're coming and going. Sometimes they don't, but they leave you alone. They don't come over and, what are you doing? So it's wonderful. It's like you got peace, you got privacy. And you have that in the city because everybody there, they have enough stuff going on in their life that they don't concern themselves with the affairs of their neighbors. But they're there and you can see them. But here, you can't. I see nature. Look at that. As far as I can see, it's beautiful. If we were in D.C. now, you wouldn't be able to see past the lower part of this meadow because there'd be a skyscraper there. The only time you can see the sky is when you look straight up. So I'm grateful for the sky. Now, let me tell you something. I am going to address this because we were there and we saw it. And this is where it's been my experience where we learn the most about what's really going on in the real world. This is where we learn the truth. And so I'm going to share some truth with you. And it has to do about politics, but this is not going to be political because I'm not political. My wife's not political. We really don't care. We have disengaged. I disengaged a long time ago, and I explained to my wife once why I disengaged, and she really got it, and she disengaged too. And I've never been more grateful to have disengaged in politics than I was on Saturday in D.C. because I was reminded of the reason why I disengaged. And basically, to put it in a nutshell, it's because I made the choice to be happy and at peace, despite any of the political atmosphere going on around me. Let me explain to you what that means. And again, I did this at the advice of a guy. He's dead now, but he was an older man at the time. He was pushing 80, and this was quite a while ago. This is before I left the country and all this stuff. But what I found is that when I was consumed with politics, when I was actively consumed with politics, I was actively engaged. I was actively angry much of the time. Now here's the thing about it, and this is what I wasn't seeing. I was actively angry when I was actively engaged in politics, even when the politicians and the political parties that I supported were in power and were getting what they wanted to get done. And for the record, I will note that at different times in my life, I supported the different parties. And so both times, at both periods in my life when I supported one, or at the other time in my life when I supported the other, even when those parties were in power and they were getting the things done that they wanted to get done, I was angry. Why is that? How could that be, you ask? Because of the very same reason people who are actively engaged in politics today, whether their party is in power or not, are still angry. Let me explain, because I'd forgotten about this, and I was reminded about it when I was in D.C. So here's what's going on. Just as and I'm going to keep walking, we're going to see what we can see or hear what we can hear back here. Just as we were pulling into D.C., and the traffic wasn't bad at all. We never got backed up anywhere. It just kept flowing on the way in, and it kept flowing on the way out. Sometimes it can take you 5 hours to get out of D.C., because I've been up there several times. It's only 2.5 hours north of us. But just as we were pulling into D.C., it was announced that Joe Biden had gotten the electorate votes needed to win the presidency. So I said to Dearly, this should be an interesting weekend in D.C. And we did not go there for that. We went there because her and Daniel had to renew their passports yesterday. And I said, well, I certainly don't want to drive into D.C. on a Monday morning because the appointment was at like 2:40 in the afternoon. I was like, we might miss the appointment because it can literally take 5 or 6 hours to get into D.C., especially on a Monday, because so many people who work in D.C. do not live in D.C. and they go home. I mean, we got neighbors around here that work there. They'll come spend their weekends on their farms in Albemarle County and then drive and spend a weekend. We have personal friends that do this, and then they spend all week in D.C. So we went up Saturday morning, and then so that way we're able to spend all day Sunday. And you probably saw Dearly's video on her channel, Life with Dearly. We went to the Washington Mall, saw the historic sites, the Lincoln Memorial, the National Monument. We saw the Vietnam Wall, those who died in the Vietnam War. So that's the first time I'd seen that wall. And then we spent the afternoon at the National Zoo. Nice zoo. The animals have plenty of space, so it's clean. And then, of course, we did what we needed to do on Monday and then came home. So Saturday, we're having lunch at this Greek place, and we were about maybe a mile and a half from the White House. And, you know, there were a bunch of cars coming through, and they're holding up signs saying Biden, Harris, and people were honking, and they were reveling, they were celebrating. And it felt nice, you know, and I was like, this is really cool. We should like just walk around and take part in the revelry. And Dearly's like, but we don't care about this. And I said, I know we don't care about the reason they're celebrating, but it's a good feeling, this atmosphere that's kind of going on here. Let's just walk around. I said, when we see people, let's just give a thumbs up and say yay. And so it was so funny. I was walking around. After we ate, we just started walking down towards the White House, and I'd see people just going crazy, losing their minds, and I'd go, yay. And they go, rah! And they'd start hugging me and screaming and talking about how, you know, it's the first day of the rest of our lives. And I was like, yay. I was having fun with it. And so Dearly started having fun with it, and she started laughing. She thought it was a hoot. I'm going to sit over here, and we're going to have the camera angle back here behind me where we may or may not have seen a lot of activity this fall, especially during the readings of October nights. Thank you, guys. And FYI, Bigfoot Sasquatch Files Volume 6 is well underway. Yesterday morning in the hotel where we stayed while we were waiting for our, you know, to leave, to check out and leave for our appointment, I wrote 4,000 words in Bigfoot Sasquatch Files Volume 6. Hope to have that out by Thanksgiving. And if so, it will be the Thanksgiving event of Thanksgiving. That's all I'm going to say. That's your only teaser. Bigfoot Sasquatch Files Volume 6, well underway. Hope to have it out by Thanksgiving, and if so, it is sure to be the Thanksgiving event of Thanksgiving. All right, so watch for movement, listen for sounds. Man, the tree knocks were going crazy until I pushed record. I know they're watching. I know they're back here. This was not supposed to be a Bigfoot Sasquatch video, and then that happened. And once again, here oh, look, there he is. Bang, bang, knock, knock, growl, growl, grr, grr. But once he pushes play, let's ruin his credibility and go silent. Did you hear that? I don't know what that was. You notice the birds went silent? For just an instant? Okay, so we started getting closer to the White House, and the atmosphere started changing. Look, I'm going to fast forward. By the time we got to within half a mile of the White House, the people were no longer celebrating the fact that Joe Biden won the election. They were celebrating the fact that Donald Trump lost the election. Okay? I get it. You didn't like him, whatever. We don't care. We're indifferent in regard to all things politics. It's one of those situations where you realize, you know, you can only control the things that you can control. There's so much out of your control that if you can't control it, why are you going to invest any amount of emotional energies in getting upset about it? I mean, I like to be serene. I love the feeling of serenity that comes with just acceptance of so many things. And when I was actively engaged in all this stuff, I never had that feeling, even when my people were in power and they were getting the things done they wanted to get done. And here's why. It's because I was not, it's like these people we saw around the White House. We made it to the White House, and then we turned around immediately and left. We didn't see any violence. There were nothing violent going on, but what we saw was a lot of just sheer, unadulterated hate and rage. The message the folks were giving out was not, yay, we're happy our guy won. It was, we hate Donald Trump. We hope he goes to prison. We just all these bad things. The signs, I could not repeat what were written on the signs. I could not repeat what the people were chanting. I cannot repeat what the people were singing and screaming because it's not appropriate for YouTube. Not just this channel, but YouTube in general. And so we're walking back, and I told Dearly, I said, you know, this is a prime example as to, I mean, it's just one of many reasons why we disengage and why we don't get into this stuff. And, I mean, going forward, I hope for the best. I hope for the best. And I am a writer. I am a YouTuber. I am a business person, and I focus on my writing, my YouTube channel, and my business entities associated with these things. And I focus on my family. I focus on our happiness. I focus on our prosperity. I focus on our health and our well-being. I don't expect any of that's going to change over the next 4 years because there's been a regime change in the White House. 4 years ago, there was a regime change in the White House. I didn't expect that my principles would change and the things I focused on would change, and they did not. And here's the deal. Let me tell you this. As a business person, we were prosperous when Obama was in office. We were prosperous when Trump was in office. And I have every reason to believe we will be prosperous while Biden's in office. Now, all these folks that say, well, I can't make any money because this guy's in office, or I can't do anything, because that party's in office. No, you're not a business person. If you're in business and you make those comments, you make those statements, you should probably go get a job because you don't have a business mindset. If you are relying upon the economic environment, the political environment, all these things to determine whether or not you're going to be successful in business or not, you've got no business being in business because you are not a business person. Okay? Now, that's kind of a segue off from my original point, but my original point is this. Even though so many of the people who were down there at the White House who had voted for Biden and who wanted him to win got exactly what they wanted, their hearts were still filled with rage and hate. As a man speaketh, so does he thinketh. They were not saying, yay, we're happy Joe Biden won. They were just screaming, chanting, and singing about how much they hated Donald Trump. Now, let me go a little bit further with this. The comment section on our videos over the last couple days have been interesting. When people, I don't care what you say on our channel, okay? But the minute you become insulting, derogatory to me, my wife, or our viewers, if you come on here and say, OMG, I can't believe you've suckered 220,000 people into believing those people are stupid. What we do is we say a prayer for you because it's obvious, okay? I call this the smartest man in a room syndrome. You know people like this. Nobody's nearly as smart as them. If anybody enjoys the simple entertainment provided from a channel like this, they're stupid. Okay, that's because these people, they just feel they're the smartest person in the room. And you know what? They're right. As long as they're the only person in the room. So we pray for them. We pray, God, please bring this vertically challenged individual who lives under a bridge the same health, wealth, and prosperity you have so blessed us with. Amen. Then we ban them. Okay? So here's the type of vertically challenged individuals who live under bridges that we dealt with this weekend. You would see one that would say, comment on a video that had nothing to do with politics, because none of our videos have anything to do with politics. I'll tell you the exact video. You remember I made a video a couple of years ago called OMG, there are no words for this terrifying trail cam video or whatever. One person commented, they said, this guy voted for Trump. I'm glad he lost. What did that have to do with the video? Nothing. So we prayed for him and then we banned him. And then on that same video, just a short while later, someone said, wow, you can tell this lunatic probably pulled the lever for Commie Joe. So we prayed for them and then we banned them. But here's my point. Two different people made very similar comments from the opposite spectrum on the same video, a video that had nothing to do with anything they said, because they were addressing their political views that had nothing to do with me running laps around my homestead and some mysterious dark figure peeking around a tree while I was doing it and we got it on camera, But that proves my point exactly. These people are so consumed that everything they see has to do with what it is with which they are consumed. In this case, of course, being political views, political opinions. And it showed that there is no difference. There's no difference between the left and the right, because we had we had a vertically challenged individual who lives under a bridge from one side make the insulting comment, as well as a vertically challenged individual who lives under a bridge from the other side make a very similar comment. So their comment had nothing to do with me. It had nothing to do with the video. It had to do with how much they are consumed with politics. And it directs their life. It directs their life. Folks like this, and I know some, it's really sad. It's sad to be so emotionally invested in something you have really virtually no control over, to where you are so consumed and controlled. For 4 years, there will be people who, I call them wannabe business people. They will claim that there's no way they can make money because Biden's in office. Okay? There's been people who for the last 4 years have claimed there was no way they could make money because Trump was in office. Let me tell you something. If that's the case, if you believe that over the last 4 years, and you think now that Biden's in office, you're going to become the CEO of a Fortune 400 company, you're wrong. It's not going to happen. So, I learned this years ago. I would be driving into town. The people I supported, the party I supported, could be in power. And I could see a bumper sticker on somebody's car that had the name of the opposition or the party of the opposition. And I would become so enraged and so angry. But why? I should have been happy. My party was in power. My guy was in the White House. I was angry because how dare someone not think just like me? Here's one of those silly things you ever hear in public. While we were having lunch, just people were loud. They had to be loud. They had to speak above the sound of the car horns and all this, the revelry going on. There were two older women, older than me. One was in her 50s, one was in her 60s, and they were talking about how happy they were that Biden won. And I wasn't eavesdropping. It's just you couldn't help but overhear because they were so loud. And they were talking. They were happy, okay? And then one, it was funny. She made the comment. She says, they were saying, it's time for everybody to stop the hate. It's time to stop the division. It's time for everybody to just be happy and get along again. And in my mind, I'm overhearing it. I'm thinking, she's right. I agree with what she just said. But then she says, I have a brother that's a conservative, and I hate him. I haven't talked to him in years. And then the other woman said, yeah, I've got family members that are conservatives, and I have nothing to do with them. We've been estranged for forever, and if I never see them again, it'll be too soon. And I laughed so hard, I actually spit some of my food out. And of course, they didn't see it because they're over there. But it's like 1 minute they're talking about they're so happy the division is over. It's time to stop the hate. Everybody can just get along, unless they don't think like me. But I've been there. I was the same. And I was the same when I supported the left, and I was the same when I supported the right. If I saw a bumper sticker that happened to be the opposite of what I supported during those days, during either times, I would become enraged. And this old man, that he's been dead for probably 20 years now, and yeah, I saw that. Let's stay right here for a minute, get my 6. I just saw that too. He said to me, you know what you got going on, kid? Because I was in my 20s at the time. He said, you're like a pot getting ready to boil over. You got a lid on top. He says, you need to find out where that heat's coming from. Where's the heat source? What is making your pot boil so much that you're getting ready to blow your lid? He said, because I can tell you, if you blow your lid, you're going to do something you're going to regret. You're going to hurt somebody. You're going to hurt yourself. You're going to make a mistake. You need to find out the heat source and eliminate it. What it was my consummation of politics. I was completely consumed with politics. And so I decided to step away, and I did, and I haven't stepped back towards it. And that was probably 20 years ago. I have my views, I have my opinions, and I do vote. I voted in the last election, and I'm going to tell you how I voted, because I'm very proud of how I voted. You hear so many people say, I vote for the person, not the party. And then they go vote straight ticket. I used to be that guy. I claimed I voted for the person, not the party, and I'd vote straight ticket. This time, because listen, I fought in Iraq. I fought in war. I served in the armed forces. I am a combat veteran. I don't take any of our rights lightly. And even though I am disinterested in politics and in the grand scheme of things, I don't care, because I focus on what I can control and let anything that I can't go over my head like water off a duck's back, because I see it ruin people's lives who've become consumed with it. And once upon a time, that was me. But I do vote, because I tell you what, if you took that right away from us, I'd be up in arms again, okay? Half the people I voted for belong to one party. The other half of the people I voted for belong to the other. I literally voted split ticket. And I was so happy with myself for doing that, because I can honestly say I don't vote for the party, I vote for the person. And I'm never going to tell you who I voted for. This is not the place. And the last thing I would want to do would be to drive any of you away who enjoy coming here and who give me your time, who watch our videos. Because even if we do disagree on our politics, we've got 95% of every other aspect of our life we probably agree on and can get along with. And that's just how we view it. But I literally voted half and half split ticket, and I'm proud of that. Now, I've rambled long enough. This is a 30-minute video. It wasn't supposed to be, but I am just grateful to be back. I'm grateful to be back on the homestead. I appreciate so much of the way of life I have going on for me and my family here, so much more after 3 days in the city. And I've never been more grateful to have disengaged from politics 20 years ago than I was when I saw that hate, that anger, that bitterness in DC, even though these folks supposedly got exactly what they wanted. Think about it, guys. If you find yourself and girls becoming emotionally consumed and boiled over about anything, not just politics, anything, step back for a minute and say, where's this heat coming from? Because if I blow my lid, I might end up doing something I regret. I might run someone out of my life that probably is quite enjoyable to have into my life. I might just do something very bad. So think about that. Let that be your thought of the day. And now that the day has begun here, I've got so much I want to do. I'm going to split wood. I'm going to cut brush. I'm going to do all kinds of stuff. I'm going to go for a run before I even do any of that. I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for being here for another episode of the PBS the Potential Bigfoot Sasquatch Show.